all of these nominated events, I cover about 95% of it with my photos.
Wow.
And being in such a creative space with so many amazing people, it inspires you even more to, push your own boundaries. Like, oh, I really want to take this amazing photo, or I kind of want to participate in that event as well. And
When OBS is good. Welcome to Metaverse Degen. I'm Lion.
I'm Old Man Raptor, and we got one hell of a guest, and that is...
hello, my name is Kaerun, and I am a VRChat photographer.
Oh,
Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you. Thanks for coming on. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Yes, very much so. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, it looks like you already answered what you're most known for, but how did you get into VRChat and what got you started with everything?
Oh, well, that's a good story, actually. I used to be a convention organizer in real life for 20 years. And a couple of years ago, we had an event running at our real life convention, which had all kinds of VTuber and VRChat artists performing on a virtual stage in our live venue. And
wow.
a friend of mine was already in VRChat. He kind of dragged me into it, and because of that, I got to meet a lot of really cool artists, especially in the Japanese community. And being so inspired by all of these people, I started to pick up my camera, and and I started to doing more and more, and here I am today, photographing a lot of events and a lot of things, worlds as well.
Wow. So,
Yeah.
what about that event where you saw the VRChat artists and performers and made you want to come to VRChat? What about that experience lured you here?
Well, it's an event called Ulverse. It's run by two people, Lily Cannon and Loy. They're both Japanese people. And they invite, it's basically a platform where V singers, V artists from the Japanese community can sing on the stage. And they invited basically half of the Japanese community to sing at our event. And it's a very lovely event. And I think, well, there's a place called Spotlight Talks in the Japanese community. And that's where I actually first got in contact with a lot of these people. It's basically the gathering place for all these amazing Japanese musicians. And first, I was just a spectator, just listening in. And I was just one of two foreigners in there. Recently, there's been an influx of more foreigners that is actually visiting that event. And it's kind of special. It feels like home. I've been there for more than 2 years now.
Oh, wow.
It's always on Saturday, and I just chill and relax there. And it's a very fun event, pretty much. But it's very hard to get into. It's basically a little bit of a niche thing.
So, within your travels, what were some of the first events and stuff you took photos of, and how has from that point led you to the kind of VRChat photographer you are now?
Well, as you probably know, we nowadays have group plus instances, right? And you just join a group and you join an event. But back in those days, you had to be friends with a lot of people, right? And you basically start to make more connections. And you see a lot of people gathering in spots. And, well, you join on them and see what's going on. And you see a lot of these beautiful musical stages where artists perform. And there's so many events nowadays when you go online, and especially during Japanese prime time, there's usually 5 events going on, like from musical events, jazz events, DJ events. There's so much going on, and I just started to hop onto them. And I think the first event that I actually started to photograph was an event by the band Johnny Henry, which is called Awake. It's a special venue, and it was a 2-day event where people, where it was like 2 days in a row, only artists playing on stage, and that's where I started my entire photography, pretty much.
Wow. So Does that event hold anything special for you, especially with the photos you've taken there? Or is there any other
I
events?
think it does.
Okay.
Because Johnny Henry is kind of special to me. Johnny Henry is a very special band in VRChat. I don't know if any of you have heard of that band. You should check it out. They have a YouTube channel as well.
Hmm.
And they're basically play a little bit of rock and jazz, and it's all very happy music, and they're very good actually. And I think that venue itself, it's very well crafted. It's like a street in a Japanese city street, and there's a little basement you go down, and there's the little venue. It's a very tiny venue, but it's so nice and cozy. And it was the final performance was Johnny Henry itself. I remember, and I remember the frontman of Johnny Henry going off the stage into the crowd, going crazy, and it was such an euphoric moment because everybody was like, "Wow, this is so amazing!" Right? And that's the memory that I still hold on to dear.
Oh wow.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Question for him, Line.
Shoot.
I gotta ask my famous question. What's the weirdest, knowing he takes pictures, we're gonna flip this. What's the weirdest thing you saw and ended up getting a picture of it in VR?
Ooh, what's the strangest thing? Well, people just flat on their faces, I guess. There's a notorious street in the Japanese community called Poppy Yokocho. It's spelled Poppy Street in English. And basically, around the time that I come on, it's European evening, but it's nighttime for the Japanese. So a lot of these people, that world is filled with the night crew. So it's a drinking street. It's a typical drinking street, and a lot of people are like just flat on the floor, drunk, and it happens a lot. And so sometimes you try to take a nice photo of somebody there, and you notice in the background, hey, what's that? And it's a drunk person, pretty much collapsed on the floor.
Wow.
It's pretty funny. Yeah. But it doesn't surprise me anymore nowadays. Really, pretty much. It's normal, I guess. A lot of people just tend to drink a lot.
Okay. So when you started doing photography for events such as the John Henry event that you mentioned, did you have any grasp of photography beforehand, or did you kind of wing it in VRChat?
Actually, I didn't. I had ambitions in real life to be, at least aspirations to grab a camera and take photos. But the equipment is kind of expensive, right?
Mm.
You usually talk about thousands of dollars of equipment to even start photographing. But all it takes in VRChat is just this little camera here, and maybe a plugin called VRC Lens or Virtual Lens 2, and you could take a really amazing photos with that, just for like $10.
Oh wow!
Which is a pretty darn good deal, if you ask me.
So, are there any photos in amongst the many you have taken that hold the most precedence or memories to you, or the ones you're most proud of?
Oh, wow, that's a good one. I've taken so many photos the past 2 years. I think over 100,000, like.
Holy
and that's
crap.
just the ones that I just sorted out. And I mean, in reality, when you cover an event, I mean, there's so many different kinds of photographers, which I'll go into next. But as an event photographer, you usually take, depending on the duration of the event, you can go up to 4,000 photos per event. And you cut out, I think you drop like 80% of the photos because they're not good enough, or they're duplicates, or there's no fast shutter in VRChat. I mean, your PC probably wouldn't be able to handle that. But are there any real photos that, like, probably the Allverse photos that I took? They have this really nice stage, like with glow sticks. Those Japanese concerts where people are going crazy with glow sticks, supporting their artists on stage. Well, Loisan, the creator of Allverse, has a really beautiful venue which replicates that audience feeling with glow sticks. And it's a very dark and colorful world. It's colorful on stage, but it's dark in the audience. So it gives you the optical illusion that the entire stage is like the entire stadium is filled with people. And you can take, and I really took some really cool shots of that. And I think those, yeah, I still remember those
Oh,
very
wow.
fondly. Yeah.
Okay. So, what made you choose event photography for what you do? Why that specifically?
Ah, why that specifically? Well, no reason actually. I just rolled into that
Hmm.
pretty much. And there's all kinds of different photography. There's world photography, which I do a little bit. And there's a couple of people who do better than me. For example, Bradley, you got Neil Mans, you got Yo Sirius, you got Eson. They all take way better world photos than me. And they all have their different styles. But there's also this beautiful style of photography that, for example, Cosmic does, Ecochin does,
Hmm.
Biz. I can name so many amazing photographers out there who take one photo and they enhance it like until it's like a piece of art.
Mm.
And for me, when I do an event, it's not an option to like take 1 hour to edit one photo because you have to edit 200 photos from one event, right? So I usually edit one photo and then apply all the settings in Lightroom to all of those photos. Because yeah, as photographers, we always edit our photos
Oh.
pretty much because, well, it's when you go into VR, you often see these vivid colors, right? The grass is very green here. I mean, your fur is very colorful. But when you take a VRChat photo, you look at the photo and like, oh, it's actually quite dull. Looks actually quite dull. So what we usually do is we enhance the blacks a little bit, enhance the colors, depending on the photographer, pretty much on his, her, them, their own style.
Hmm.
And that's how we try to, present a photo to really recapture that moment from the evening before when you had a big party.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
So when you
But
line up,
yeah,
ooh,
Lion.
sorry, sorry about that.
so sorry, no worries. No, but specifically event photography, I think what attracts me to it is that you get to communicate and talk with a lot of people.
Hmm.
I used to, for that festival, which I mentioned earlier, I was doing HR, so I was managing a lot of people and talking to a lot of people. And as an event photographer, I get to talk to a lot of people as well. Organizers, artists, the audience. And that's actually what kind of drives me as a photographer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
For him, Lion. I got one for him. In all the worlds that you've traveled in, do you have a world that keeps bringing you back? You just can't get enough of it. It's just,
Yes.
I know
yes.
there's something I'm missing.
Yes.
What would that
There's
be?
one. There's always one world that I come back to, and that is Beyond a Bit. And you probably know it. It's a world created by ST October,
Hmm.
and it's basically you click a button and the entire world changes around you, and it's a very impressive show actually. And there's a big professional team behind it. They're so talented. And it's quest compatible as well. And always when there's a new person joining VRChat, that's the first world that I take them to. Because it's a perfect example of what you can do with VRChat and virtual reality in general.
Hmm.
It just blows people's minds. Yeah. And plus, it also has a very nice backdrop to take photos in.
Oh.
Ooh,
So when you're
nice.
lining a shot up or you're looking for a photo, what is it you're looking for when you take the photos? Was something in particular, or is it all any strategy to
It
it?
depends on what I'm It depends on what I'm photographing. Usually, the photos that I like the most in events are people not noticing me, like they're just having a good time, talking with their friends. Maybe they're dancing, or just having a good time in general. And that's usually when you can get the best photos because people are having a great time. So you try to preserve that memory with your camera.
Hmm.
I mean, a lot of times, people come up to me, they do the V pose and they take a photo and I can take a photo and that's all good and fine. But when you take a photo without them noticing, that's a genuine feeling. Like they're not even looking at you. They're having fun with their friends, and that's the moment that I really like to capture. And that is the case for a lot of event photographs. I mean, to quote Ari Gold, poses are so boring, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. I've heard there's a few people I know who do photography kind of like you, and one of them said, I'd never like restaging a photo. Is that something that's common?
Mm. We usually don't do it often. No, actually, we don't really like that
Okay.
because it makes a photo less genuine.
Hmm.
It makes a moment less genuine. Mm.
Okay. So, are there any events that you've taken place in that have taken photos that either stood out to you or the person who the photo was in? Anything that stands out to you? Any of your favorite events from those?
Ooh, that's a good one. Any events, huh? Well, there's this club called Siberia Late X. It's an event that runs on Fridays. I usually photograph there every Fridays. It's a club based around Serial Experiments Lane. I don't know if you're familiar with that anime. It's an anime from the 90s, end of the 90s. And that anime was way ahead of its time. And in that anime, there's a club called Siberia. And the DJ that is actually doing the DJing in that anime is actually the DJ in the club here in VRChat.
What?
And yes,
That's wild.
Yeah, that's actually pretty wild, right? And the thing is, it's such a nice and cozy atmosphere. It's a mix of Japanese people, Europeans, Americans, and everybody's just having a good time. And unlike, it differs quite a lot from what you see in the Western European Americans. But it also is quite different from what you see in the Japanese clubs. So it's kind of a little nice mix with everybody. And I don't know, it's just, the music is great, the audience is great, it's such a great time. And whenever I take photos there, the light is pretty darn good as well. The world is so heavy though, it's really heavy.
Oh. So I have another unique question for you as well. Since you mentioned you did event organizing in the real world, when you came into VRChat and even now when you look at all of these events going on, do you see anything unique or different or similar between the two I'd say platforms, but mediums?
Well, the way how events are set up, it differs also per region. I'm in the organization of an event called Inspiration. And the way how they handle an event, like, for example, something like The Gathering, it is a different management style, right? I tend to think that my Japanese colleagues are more punctual, more precise in certain things, like they make these huge timetables and they follow it to the letter precise, right? And I think Western events are kind of more lenient. But the way how events run are in real life and in VR are kind of similar, just on a smaller scale, pretty much.
Okay. Now,
and usually it doesn't involve huge amounts of money. That's for sure.
There's that too. Now, from what you've experienced, what would need to change in VR or through the event organizing to make it of the same level that you've experienced?
Well, I think VR should become a little bit more mainstream. And for now, it's VR, VRChat, and every headset that you wear. It's kind of a niche thing. So a lot of people outside of VR, they're treating it like a game. Oh, you're playing a game, right? But for a lot of people, VR is just a real social thing, a social platform. It's their thing outside of real life where they come back to. But for big events to become the same scale as in real life, you need to have VR to be more accepted. And I think it's like 10 years too early for that because the technology is just not there yet. We are still wearing bulky headsets. We need to use very heavy PCs to actually run VR decently. And before, those limits need to be gone. Like also a world limit, we have a world limit of 80 people, around 80 people in VRChat. And sometimes the VRChat staff can raise it to 100, 120, maybe 200 during New Year's. But as soon as those barriers are gone, you can start thinking about holding those kinds of events in chat or in VR in general.
Hmm. Okay. So you mentioned something how, like, on the lines of what VR means to people. What does VR come to mean to you over the time of you using it? Whoa, what are you doing here? This is wild.
What are you doing here?
I was here to remind these guys of something. What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you going to remind them about, Lion? I wanted to remind them about something too.
By the way, did you have fun at pjkt or VCAT this year? Is there another convention that you're looking forward, but it's kind of not the season? Well, there's one coming up for Halloween that would be definitely down your alley if you're into spooky, scary stuff as well, which is HorrorCon, which is October 26th and 27th this year. So you should definitely go. See booze, people make stuff here in VR. Lots of crazy stuff for you to go check out.
There's also going to be DJs as well as many different worlds and events, from panels to amazing things along the way. You'll have to check it out. It is a 2-day event, like Lion said, October 26th and 27th. Make sure to be there. Go down in the description, discord.gg/pjkt, and also HorrorCon's Discord will also be down there as well. Go check it out. It'll be an amazing time. You'll probably see us there. There's a lot of amazing people, from horror creators to world creators of the horror genre, all sorts of stuff. You don't want to miss it.
Not at all. Go down the description. Everything you need to know to find out where to go to attend is right down below in the hoobly what's the thingy down there. So sorry to interrupt your current viewing pleasure. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of whoever the guest is at this moment. I don't know who it is.
There's a lot. There's going to be a lot. We'll see you at HorrorCon. Woo!
See you at HorrorCon.
For me, it's more like a creative thing. I didn't know that I had a lot of this creativity in me when taking photos and doing editing and stuff. I mean, I used to game a lot, but that is different than taking a photo, editing it, and give a little bit of your own spin to it. And I didn't know I had that in me. And it's also, I get to meet a lot of really cool, amazing people. Just a lot of creative people, which inspire me even more to do things. And that's what VR and VRChat means to me. I get to meet all of these amazing people.
What are some of the people you've had the chance of meeting that stuck with you? Anyone you've mentored? Anyone that inspired you the most through your meeting of people?
Well, I've met so many amazing people. For example, there's the people from Amoka, the band Amoka, Ipo and Moisan. They're amazing. I met the people from Johnny Henry. I'm also part of a group called Cinematic Neon Club, which is a Japanese band. I'm in the producing team. I'm shooting video. And, well, there's also these world builders like Shopao, Cartonics, Tonton Demon. You meet a lot of these creative people, and they give you a little bit of insight on how worlds are built and where they hide their Easter eggs, what their thinking process is like. That itself, gives you a lot of energy and inspiration to do. For me, for world photography, I do a lot of world photography as well. I post 3 worlds a day.
Oh wow!
Just to introduce them to people. Yeah, I'm not as much as Neil Mans or Bradley, but I just do 3.
Okay. Well, still though, between you saying you did 100,000 photos and then adding 3 world photos a day on top of it, and you edit them, that sounds like a lot of work, and I'm impressed. I want to be honest.
Well,
No doubt.
to be honest with you, I kind of was overworked because of it, because I still had a normal job, right? I still have to work 8-9 hours a day. And I was like, after work, I would hop into VR and go be in VR until like 11 p.m., 12 p.m. But I still needed to edit all of those photos afterwards, right? So I usually went to bed like in 2, 3 a.m. just to get all these photos edited. And it was tough at start, You don't really have experience with Adobe Lightroom, Photoshop. So the editing process takes a little bit longer. But nowadays, it's an automatic pilot. I can just do it. And I have a lot of preset profiles that I can use. And I usually tweak them and adjust them. And I can apply all the settings to those photos. But it used to be very tough at start. So I'm taking a little bit of a step back, like more to preserve myself as a photographer, and became a little bit more picky.
Okay. So over time, what kind of tools do you have in your toolbox for photography, and how long did it take to incorporate them into your workflow?
Um, well, for photography, we have just this camera. So just the default camera of VRChat, it's already pretty good. It's pretty darn good, especially the focus options, the streaming options. I use it just this camera when I do my Twitch streams. It's good enough. It's just good
Mm.
enough. There's also cameras like Virtual Lens 2, VRC Lens, and I mainly use VRC Lens because I really love the drone option. I can pre-fly my drone, and I'm a Dutch guy. I like my Dutch angle, so I kind of like to take shots that are in a crazy angle.
Mm.
And it kind of become my trademark when doing event photographing of artists.
Mm.
So like it's kind of like an angle shot.
Ah.
And when I usually done photographing, I usually take my photos in 4K, sometimes 8K, depending on the situation, and sometimes multi-layer as well. So really depending on what kind of photo I take, it depends what kind of tools I'm going to use afterwards. So I use a tool called Affinity, which is a Photoshop alternative,
Mm.
which you can just edit different kinds of layers, but I use Photoshop as well at times. And there's also Adobe Lightroom, which it's a tool. It's basically what every photographer should use. If you have a lot of photos, you take one photo and you tweak the little settings like the darkness levels, the contrast, you name it, you can adjust it in the photo. And you can apply it to like 200 photos at the same time, which is an amazing, powerful tool. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And well, of course, when I'm shooting video, OBS, just OBS. Everybody uses OBS.
Okay. Now, for some of those tools, like the one you mentioned, you can edit a bunch of things at once. Is that something you found or something someone pointed out to you since you've got started here?
Well, my friend Shell, who I know in real life, who actually dragged me into VRChat. He's that friend that I mentioned from the festival.
Mhm.
I've been knowing him for over 20 years. He's the reason that I got here. And he was doing photography as well. And when I first started, I just took photos. And I didn't edit them at all. And he was like, yeah, your photos are really good, but you need to spice them up. You need to adjust them and retouch them to make them even better. And so I did with the tools that he recommended.
Oh, wow. So has any of the skills you've learned here in VRChat help you with your anything in the outside world? Is there anything you picked up from here that help you?
Oh yeah,
out of
definitely.
here?
When I pick up a camera in real life, I can touch up those photos now pretty nice as well, or do graphical editing. I mean, I done some graphical editing in the past before I did all the photography, but I'm way better at it right now because I know how all of these tools work. And slowly, I've been trying to teach my skills to an apprentice.
Oh.
I have this little lovely apprentice called I Will Keep Late from the United States. I met her a couple of months ago during an event, and she was taking photos, and we got to talk. And I've slowly been teaching her a little bit on how to take photos, how to create her own little style, how to use these tools effectively, how to use your time effectively, because that is really important. Time management is quite important as well.
Oh, I very much agree. Time management is quite the skill to learn.
It is.
Oh, so
And well, for a lot of these events, you have to be there at the event. So let's say an event is like 4 hours. So you're there for the duration of the event taking photos. But after the event, everybody's done, but you're not done yet. Because you have to sort through all these photos. And you have to edit all of those photos. So that takes you another 2 to 3 hours, depending on the event. And you have to upload them, and you need to determine who to get in contact with, which Discord to post them. Am I going to post them on social media? Because some of these photos that you take, they're like kind of personal. So you give them to the people instead of posting it on social media because you respect their privacy, right? Their privacy. So you got to take that into account as well.
Okay.
And you'll wait for them to post a photo on social, and then you retweet it or you repost it.
So
it's really up to the user itself.
Ooh. So something like that, real quick as well, is what made you want to pick up an apprentice, and what is it like being the one teaching instead of the one learning?
Well, I am used to teaching people certain skills. I'm a pretty old guy, so I'm not very young. So I am very used to teaching people and explaining things in a normal way that people can actually understand. And I think it's important. What kind of kindled my fire, all of these amazing people and the skill and stuff that inspires those people as well. So I kind of want to light up their fires as well to see what they are capable of. So that's my inspiration for doing that.
Okay.
My little, yeah.
Ooh.
Question for Line. What the hell was that look for?
I don't know what you're talking
the camera
about.
at me when he's...
I have no
Oh,
idea.
yeah, you son. idea, yeah. All of a sudden, the camera's down there. Oh, what the hell are you looking? And then he's looking at me like, what? What the hell did I... What? What the hell? What the hell? You just said age in the first place. The camera zips to me like the fuck is behind me? Okay, gotcha. And then the clear went...
No worries, no worries.
Got you. Yeah, at least...
I'm joining.
At least we could say that us old folks stick together.
Also old folks, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, holy criminy.
Love you, Raptor.
Talk later. Oh, yeah, love you. Yeah. Better off shoot me too and get it over and bury me in the water.
Yeah.
Going, wow,
No,
look
we
at
gotta have you
Floaty.
live a little longer, Mr. Raptor.
So you can give me more shit. Yeah, that's the way it works, folks. Gotta give the old man shit.
That's how it
He's
works.
got nothing better else to do. That's fun. That's VR. Boy.
It is VR.
Oh.
But yeah, there's I usually photograph Japanese events, and I've only since a year ago started to photograph Europeans, and sometimes I overlap a little bit into America. It's a little bit too late for me, but as you kind of noticed, but there's this cultural barrier as well, between different regions, and I don't know. I just feel more Japanese community, pretty much.
Okay. So,
yeah.
What about the Japanese community makes you feel more at home there versus the European or the Western community?
In general, well, people are more organized. Like, how do we say? When you have somebody on stage performing, you see a lot of these people. They will go to the front. They will listen to music, and when they want to talk, they go to the back. They talk to the back. So out of respect for the artists. But I noticed an event a couple of months ago, which had a couple of music artists, and there were these ravers coming. I think it was a mix of Europeans and Americans, and they just started to make a lot of amok, a lot of noise, disrespectful, and it kind of pissed me off. Really, like. I kind of want to walk to them and like, hey, yo, there's like 5 people on stage, live performing. You are talking about drinking, raves, and all kinds of nasty things. So, sadly, I was already tired at that moment. That was in the middle of the night for me. But, yeah. It's a difference in culture as well. Okay. Westerners are usually very loud, and they like to voice their opinions as loud as they can. And
okay.
You don't see that in the Japanese community. It's actually very soft spoken. Everybody's in general very respectful to each other, and they're not very noisy. You notice it straight away when I go to a European event or a Japanese event. Europeans are way more noisier. Americans, way more noisier.
Okay. So when you show people the photos you've taken of them, what have been some of your favorite or some of the common reactions to like them seeing themselves in a photo that you've taken?
Well, usually it's like, oh wow, thank you so much. Oh, this is a beautiful photo, or thank you so much. It depends on the person. usually artists that I take photos of, they kind of appreciate it and they use that to promote themselves. I usually encourage them as well, to use the photos, give me a tag, or you don't give me a tag. I'll find them anyway and retweet them. But recently I just do street photography. So I walk on the street, see people, and like, oh, that's a really cool. I kind of want to take a photo of you. So I take my camera and I take a photo, and I try to brush it up, and they're usually very grateful. That's the general feeling.
Okay. Do you have any favorite interactions from your on the street photographs you've taken? Because for example, we saw the TikTok or YouTubers who do the on street photography, and you can see the interactions. Do you have anything similar to what people see, or anything that sticks out to you with those interactions?
Well, not really. I'm just usually a very soft-spoken person, like very nice and quiet. And recently, people actually start to recognize me because I was selected as a virtual market ambassador, pretty much like Corbell and TFM Johnny. I mean, we're all virtual market ambassadors. So people start to recognize you, and they start to walk up to you like you're one famous person or something. I'm just a normal guy, pretty much. but yeah, it hardly turns awkward, pretty much.
Okay. So when you first started this whole endeavor here in VR, did you expect any of the adventure or locations you've been to, or where you are now? Did you expect any of this journey at all?
No, I held off the boat pretty much from VR. And that is pretty much because I had a very bad experience in VRChat, my first experience. My account is actually a couple of years old, but I only became active like 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. But I had an account before that, and my first experience in VRChat was actually Black Cat, like most people. And racial slurs, calling you names, and just being a general nuisance caused me to quit VRChat, log out, delete from my hard drive, and never touch it again. And I think what pulled me back was my friend, actually. Come on, Kaerun, come join us. And I'm like, okay, I'll buy a headset and let's try this again, shall we? And no, pretty much stuck.
Okay. Are you glad you came back the second time?
I'm actually very glad that I came back. I mean, meeting all of these wonderful people. I don't know. I never imagined that I would have been able to talk to a lot of these creative people, and also a lot of Japanese people. I mean, I've been in the contact with the Japanese language for like 25 years. Just by watching, Japanese stuff like anime, drama, and stuff like that. But being able to speak it with those other people, it is kind of interesting. And you learn way more than, just studying. I actually am not actively studying Japanese at all.
Oh,
but
wow.
it's funny. It's funny. Yeah.
So I have another weird question as well, kind of as a bit of an off tangent.
Yeah.
When you have you ever showed your work to people who aren't in VR, and what are their common reactions to your work?
Oh, pretty much the same as a lot of the normal people outside of. Usually people don't really take it too serious. It's probably the same for a lot of people actually in VRChat. When they tell about their VRChat adventures or something that they experience, it's like, yeah, this guy's playing another game, and why are you acting so childish? And stuff like that. That's the common reaction. But having your own work featured, my own little portrait, my virtual self was on a wall displayed in Akihabara. And
wow.
seeing that, like a real life photo of your avatar stuck on the wall, on a pillar, like that is kind of a special feeling, right? And when I show them that, they're like, oh, really? So it's not just like a crazy little game that you all play. So that's pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I have a feeling with things like Rand Dance and Venice and the Venice Film Festival as well. I'm sure that'll change a lot more minds for what's going on here as well. Did you do some work there?
Well, usually when I explain the... for Venice not, but I did some work for Raindance. I am one of the unofficial photographers for Raindance Festival for 2 years now. So all of these nominated events I take, I cover about 95% of it with my photos.
Wow.
And being in such a creative space with so many amazing people, it inspires you even more to, push your own boundaries. Like, oh, I really want to take this amazing photo, or I kind of want to participate in that event as well. And it's just, how do you say it in English? Inspiration creates inspiration, I guess.
Okay, I can understand that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got that. I got another one. I got a question for him. Since you brought it up,
sure.
what is one of the biggest boundaries of what you've been doing photographed that you stood back and you looked at it and had to, wait a minute, no, yes, no. And you just sat there, bounced back and forth, and you go, it's got to be this.
Yeah.
But then you turn around and relate, no, it's not. What was your boundary in that situation?
Well, I think mostly real life restrictions. It's mostly real life restrictions. I mean, you have a real life besides your virtual reality life. And when you're not a big VTuber, you still have to work. And when you notice that your hobby is taking over your life, and it also influences the things that you do in your work, then you really need to, like, okay, am I going through with this, or am I not going through with this? Am I just make it a big hobby, or gonna make it to the next level? And I am actually still in that phase. Do I really want to continue with this? Maybe make a living out of it. Probably not, because it's hard to make a living as a photographer, and alone as a VRChat photographer, it's even more difficult. But I think that is the greatest boundary, because I really do like what I'm doing. I really do love taking photos, going to these events, capturing these moments. And I think I've had the most fulfillment out of anything that I did since like 10 years, pretty much.
Wow.
Even with my job. I mean, I find this way more interesting than the things that I do in my job, which is just another IT administrator.
Wow.
Okay. I got another one.
Mm-hmm.
When you do take your photograph that you like and everything else like this, have you ever taken it beyond its recognition? You understand what I'm getting at? When you take it and do something that you would, well, it'd be like taking an abstract painting and turning around, making it into a photograph. You're doing it in a different direction. You took something.
I sometimes do that if I really like a certain photo. Not that often, because I'm just resolved around events. But sometimes there is this one little photo, and you're tweaking the colors, like you're trying to make it a piece of art, right? Like you might trying to make it the Mona Lisa of a photo. But myself, I kind of lack the really advanced skills to do that. There's way better people that actually can do that. Let me give you a couple of examples, because since we're talking about photography, I need to mention a couple of, right, who do these kinds of stuff. They're called Ekochin, they're called Cosmic, Eason, they're called Roksuk, Amaneko. They're all Tatamin. And they're all photographers who take that photo, just like you said, and they make it a Mona Lisa. They make it something like that. And it is a skill that I can do it, but it takes me a lot more time. Instead of, and I know there's also a photographer called Yeti Bandit. I think he's active in the American time zone, but he kind of likes to do that as well. And he's getting pretty good at it, at retouching the photos and making it like a really nice painting, like a piece of art. But for me, it's I don't know. I kind of like to retouch my photos a little bit, so it retains that feeling that, for example, if you go to a nice club, the light was nice, you had a good time with people dancing around you, and I kind of, that's that moment, I kind of want to retouch the photo a little bit, so it's a little bit more bright, the people pop out, and then so that when they look at that photo the next day, they're instantly pulled back into that event, and that, that nice little feeling they had the previous evening.
I've heard that a few times as well. The sentiment of taking photos to help people remember events. I've heard from a few different people as well by now. It's a very humbling thing for someone such as yourself to do. At least I think so. To help people, and it's a nice thing.
Yeah. Well, I know you are a people's person as well, right? I am pretty much a people's person. I like to do things for people, pretty much.
Okay. So let's port you back a bit to a whole other time, back into now kind of a little mixture as well. Weird question. What were some things about the skill sets you now have in your repertoire that surprised you when entering VRChat? Hello, we're here to interrupt the most interesting thing being said in our current video to ask you a favor, which is, would you mind joining us on any of the socials we have, such as Discord? We're hanging out all the time playing video games, so you can catch us there very frequently. We have I run Twitter for us, which is LionTurtle21 on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. It'll always be Twitter. But either way, there's that. We also have a Patreon, which we actually have a whole other show for our Patreon members, which are Aliquum and the newest addition to the bunch, Future Oracle,
Niche, and Forbidden Zero, good friends of ours.
Yeah, thank you very much, you guys, for joining. It means a whole lot that you're there. And hope to see you there as well. We have a whole other show. There are some free ones we have released as well for the audio for you to listen to and to see what it's like. It's like a whole other show, so thank you. With that said, please enjoy the rest of your podcast on YouTube.
Well, I'm actually taking videos now as well. I went a little bit into videography after seeing... I do photography for an event called Taiko Drum, which is basically people playing the drum and amazing dancers dancing around the bonfire. And I got inspired by a lot of these amazing videographers like Shinseki-san. There's Fish Cakes from Malaysia. They make these amazing videos. So recently I started to venture into that, like taking more videos instead of photos. And I've actually been quite enjoying that and doing some editing with the Photoshop tools as well, like editing a video from A to Z. I don't know. I just have so much fun doing it.
Okay. Is there any, are the skill sets transferable between videography and editing there and photography and editing there?
Some things are kind of similar. Usually you don't really touch up a video. You kind of cut up videos and you be in the director's chair, like you use this piece of video here, this piece of video there. You use this soundtrack, fade-ins, you name it. I mean, you make videos yourself, right? You know how it goes. But usually I don't really touch up my videos, like the colors and stuff, and probably do that as well. But I think when it comes to photographing and videographing, I mean, certain angles in shots are kind of similar. And the drone skills that I use for my photos, because I usually fly my drone around, are the same. So, but with a photograph, I just take one snap. And with the video, I'm constantly just flying around. So it has a little bit of overlap.
Okay. What pulled you into videography from your regular photography? What about it interested you?
Well, I think it's more to differentiate and gaining more skills, actually. Because I see that there's a lot of really upcoming photographs out there. Really amazing photographers, like they're like only been there for 3 months. And they already start to take beautiful photos of these events. And remember, event photography, it's not a competition. It's never a competition between event photographers, because we all want the same thing. We want to capture those precious memories, those precious performances, right? So when I see a lot of more photographs, I'm like, yeah, well, let them take the photos. I will take a nice video instead. So it's more like to expand my own skills.
Okay. Do you find the videography just as fulfilling as when you are doing photography?
Pretty much, it's the same. It's the same, about the same.
Hmm.
What excites me is that it's just something new for me.
Hmm.
So I get to learn a lot of really new things. And with photography, I already know a lot of things. I kind of, except for, the ultra editing that a lot of people do, like making a Mona Lisa. That's what I still kind of lack. But videographing is just an entirely different skill set because you need to know where to put your camera, when to put your camera, how to film stuff, how to make a nice montage out of it. It's just it's a nice challenge. And
Hmm.
I've been streaming on Twitch, my own Twitch channel, and I kind of know how these video things work, OBS, and so I was already familiar with those kinds of things. And adding a little bit of editing more, just it gives me a more completer skill set as a person.
Okay. What has been some of your favorite memories from the platform VRChat?
Favorite memories? I think from this year, I think The Gathering. I was one of the photographers for The Gathering. I don't know if you know The Gathering. It's basically a big homage to Slyfest. And it took place earlier this year for 2 to 3 days, if I remember. And I was one of the photographers, and I was not scheduled. I was just going in there as a photographer whenever I wanted. I had a free reign. And I had so much fun over it with my fellow photographers as well. But the general vibe was so relaxed. And some other great moments are the rain dance festivals. Like being surrounded by all of these amazing people, seeing their beautiful creations. I think those are really, really precious memories to me.
Okay. Did you enjoy for the gathering and rain dance? How were they any how the words I can English? How are the events there you've attended to the other ones you've been with? Why do they stand out? There we go. I can English well.
Well, it's pretty much because well, the events for rain dance, like they're usually they're already events that have been happening before. So I already knew a lot of these events, and when you visit an event like on a normal day, you have a normal audience. But when you see an event take place during rain dance, you see a lot of these fellow creators, fellow creative minds join their events, and you see an entire different vibe. And it's kind of like you see a lot of exchange going on, like oh, maybe you should try this, or maybe you should try that, or oh, I got an idea for next year because of your world or your idea. I mean, for gathering, it's just more like the spirit of Slyfest. I've been to Slyfest a couple of times last year, not too much because I had no time. But it gave me a good impression of what the spirit of Slyfest is. The general vibe. And I was just, in general, very pleasantly surprised.
Ooh. Have you ever attended Slyfest before? And if not, would you ever intend to?
I visited Slyfest for the first time, I think 2 years ago. Just, as a visitor to see what's it all about. I mean, I didn't really go outside the Japanese community. I just was visiting Japanese events. And then there was Slyfest. And, oh, so this is what the Western community is like. When they go party, go have fun. It's only since last year, last edition, that I actually started to take photos there. Not as an official photographer, but just as I'm taking some photos. Here, have them, and good luck with that.
Okay. Oh. Now, do the Japanese community have anything similar to the Gathering or Slyfest?
Well, they have. Well, tomorrow, Sanrio is actually doing it. So you got Sanrio, who you know from, I think from Hello Kitty. They have this big big event going on, and there's all kinds of special stages where artists perform, probably a couple of special worlds. There's also virtual market. Virtual market is pretty much a Japanese thing. It's starting to be more global. I know Lun is and Chado Sensei are pushing it to be more international, and they're doing a terrific job at it. So those are specific Japanese events, and I think one of the events that I really liked was Music VRChat. I don't know if you have heard that of that event. It's basically virtual market with surrounding music. And so you have a lot of these great musicians performing on the really beautiful live stage they create. And that was so awe-inspiring. And I think, remember last year, there's this amazing guy called Q-Ambient. And the Japanese have something special. They have something special over the rest of the world. They have Synchro. Yeah, from Yamaha. And basically, it's a piece of software which allows a lot of these artists to play together without latency. How is that? I mean, that's actually, that's not possible, right? Outside of here in the West. I've never seen somebody perform together like that. Maybe a VJ, DJ, like fine-tuning each other. But like, you got someone who plays a piano, someone who sings, somebody who drums, somebody who plays a guitar, a bass, all playing together. So here's this Q-Ambient Flow. Amazing guy. He has a piano with... he calls his instrument a sylbiant. You have these little crystals, and people can interact with these crystals. They can touch them. So he invites the audience in, like, play with crystals. And he was doing his piano thing, and more and more Japanese artists, the Japanese singers, artists, they started to join his sync room, so his little room. And they started to perform it in the audience as well. And I remember quite fondly that the Western audience who was at that stage, they were like, wait, is this even possible and real? And it was such an euphoric event for everybody. Like, they started to join his sync room. Whenever I think back about it, I think it's one of the highlights for me last year.
Wow.
So look forward to it. Music VRChat at the end of the year. There's another edition.
Yeah, the latency thing. I think the closest I've heard was through places like Corbell, Goldie Lounge, and stuff in those areas, is people who like work to sync up through matching latency, so they'll start at different times and stuff like that, and work to have it seem like it's in sync. If I'm understanding
there's actually
correctly.
There's only one person outside of Japan who's been able to do it correctly with Japanese people. And that is a person called Vivi Zena, a very talented singer from Germany. She is the only one capable of actually syncing up with her Japanese peers through that piece of software. Because there's always the geographic difference, right? You can have synchro in America, but if somebody's in the East Coast and the other one is in the West Coast, it's never going to sync up pretty nicely. They're always going to have latency. But she, for as far as I know, she is the only person that is actually doing muscle memory to keep the latency in mind when she's performing with other artists. That is such an amazing skill. Really, pretty much.
I'm sure that's a really hard skill to learn, latency, especially here in VR. It's probably one of the biggest killers for most events.
Well, you see a lot of these European American events. They use like voice, so they build a separate little space where voice is picked up and projected to the audience, right? But it's usually very wonky at best. I think the only event where it actually went well, I think, well, let me get back. I think a year ago, I couldn't have imagined that there was a live music event in the EU or American community. I just couldn't really imagine people playing together. But I've been pleasantly surprised in the progress that everybody has booked. I was at an event from the Fake Asian Gang, I think a month ago. And it was such a nice, really nice jazz festival. And they really did a terrific job on that. So I'm very proud of them to actually be able to pull it off. That quality, the quality that I'm used to from a lot of these Japanese events, it finally got there. So I was, of course, with the help of Japanese. I mean, the half of the roster was Japanese, so pretty much. But I think, the artists that were there, I mean, for example, Kit Kat sings. She's an amazing artist, and I saw some amazing jazz singers there as well. And I was super impressed by everybody.
Oh, wow. So I have a fun question for you. Do you have any
Yes, sir.
photos of artists like Kit Kat that you particularly like from of your own work?
Oh, I have a couple of photos of Kit Kat. A couple of beautiful ones, but I got so many photos of all kinds of artists, really. But like I said, I usually don't turn my photos into pieces of art. I just like capture the moment, right?
Yeah.
And I have some of Japanese artists, like where they're holding a microphone on stage and they're going like this, or they have a specific pose. And it kind of likes I kind of like when I take an event photo of an artist on stage. I kind of try to put some energy into it, like it's dynamic. You look at the photo, like, oh well, somebody's having a party on stage, like people are interacting with their audience. And those are the kind of high energy photos that I kind of like.
So how would one keep in mind the energy level when taking a photo of an artist or an event or a room? How would you capture that energy in a photo?
How do you capture energy? Well, just taking a photo at the right moment. It's all about body posture, right? Somebody can be like this, and yeah, that's not going to be a great photo, right? Or just in desktop mode, and like, it's not a great photo. So you got to wait for the right moment, or just take a lot of photos. And you have to have a certain angle, certain things in your photo, like, do you want a piece of the audience in there? Because if the audience is like going nuts, and you have the artist in the other corner, you already have a lot of energy in that photo. But it also depends on what kind of angle you take a photo in. Pretty much.
Okay.
So position and situation.
Okay. Is it easy to capture energy, or is it quite hard to get the right moment to capture the angle or the moment?
I think you need to get a little bit of a knack for it. It takes a little bit of practice to capture it. I mean, people can fly their drones around and snap a photo just in front of an artist or a DJ. That's fine. I mean, but to really capture the moment, like that it takes a little bit of skill and patience.
Okay. I appreciate the insight. It's good to learn these kinds of things.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. What have been some key points that someone has mentored you in terms of photography or videography when you've been working on those things that someone like mentors you into learning, like getting right moments?
I think, well, I learned a little bit from my friend Shell, like, hey, don't do this, don't do that, do this, or hey, you did a good job on this one. But with videographing as well, I mentioned before, I'm in the production team of a Cinematic Neon Club. And the director of that band, producer, the main executive producer, he gives me little pointers as well. What he really likes to see in video, and what he doesn't really like. So I get a lot of tips and tricks like that, and also by just watching other people. If I see a photo from fish or a video from Fish Cakes or from Shinseki-san, I get a lot of information by just watching at a video, and it's the same for my fellow photographers. When I look at a photo, for example, from Eason or Cosmic, I get a little bit of an idea of a composition of a photo, what is beautiful, what is not beautiful in a photo. And I see it a lot in Bradley. Bradley in World Photos. Brad doesn't never edit his photos. Never. He never edits his photos. And but he takes really good photos. Like he knows the angle in where you need to take a photo, and that's what makes him a very amazing photographer. And Neilmans, for example, a world photographer like Neilmans, he likes to touch up his photos, like to a certain level of degree, which makes it very beautiful in return.
Okay. Well, with that said, I think we'll ask you a few other questions before we start wrapping things up, such as your name.
Sure thing.
What makes you, how did you get the name, and why do you keep on using it in VRChat?
Well, that's a good question. I've had my nickname for maybe 30 years.
Oh, wow.
perhaps 30 years. I think, well, I saw it somewhere. This was in the time before the internet existed, pretty much. and I saw the name, and it looks kind of cool, right? Kaerun. Hey, it sounds cool. So I went with that, and funny enough, I only found out later that the name Kaerun, or as the Japanese call it, is called Kaerun, which actually Kaeru means frog. So that's why I have run with a little frog theme on my chest. And Kaerun also means to return. Yeah, so
wow.
that's basically, I run with a frog theme. Yeah. So usually when I see people calling me frog, I know enough. They're calling out me.
Oh, and yep.
No, I was just giggling with the frog. It was just, it's different.
Okay. And the avatar you're in, you use. What makes how'd you get it? And is there any features?
My avatar. Well, okay. Yeah, well, it actually has some meaning. You know, there's this outfit itself. It looks like a sort of a press figure, right? Somebody who reports on things. That's so I kind of like dark colors. So I went with dark colors. I have blue eyes in real life. The gray hair is actually because, well, I'm a middle-aged guy. I'm getting gray. And the orange here is like, I'm from the Netherlands, and orange is the national color. So I kind of use the orange back into my avatar to signify that I'm from the Netherlands. And I also put the flag on here, which usually is just like, for Japanese, they usually ask me, oh, where are you from? And I just point them to here. Like, and they're usually like, oh, from France. And I'm like, no, not from France. Well, and of course the logos, but the logos are more like, if people steal my avatar, they're walking around with my logo, pretty much.
Okay, free advertisement. I can understand that.
Free advertisement. And people will report and ban them, pretty much.
Okay. Well, again, Kaerun, thank you very much for your time and be able to sit and actually meet you.
Hey,
It's
you're
been an
welcome.
absolute honor.
Yeah, it's my pleasure as well. And it's been a really honor to be featured on your channel. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Appreciate you being here.
Indeed. Where can the audience find you if they wish to reach out and find you?
Oh, they can find me on they can find me on Twitter. My channel name is Jelle and my Twitch name is Bast Kaerun. So you can find me on there. So join me for World Hops on Twitch, or visit my Twitter page just to see my photos and see what I'm reporting on.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Kaerun, again. And before we hand it off to Mr. Raptor to close us out, I'd like to ask you, the audience, a question. What is your favorite photo you've taken? Let us know if there's a meaning behind it or what happened. Let us know down below. We'd love to hear all the stories down in the comment section. And Mr. Raptor, you know the thing.
Yeah, Charlie. No matter what you do, folks, everything you see or might not see, or some things you just wish you never did see, bet you 10 to 1 you got the best camera in the world, and it's called in the back of your mind. And sometimes it scares you, sometimes it makes you laugh, sometimes it might make you cry, but I bet you 10 to 1 you're going to laugh about it when it's all said and done. We'll talk to you later. Bye.